Fake by Pregame. Looking downtown. Touchdown! Basket! 47 yards for the score.
Here's what they're in 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends. And it's Pregame to basket. That's it. Now watch. Gordon does a pretty good job. He doesn't get his hands on him. He fell that little stutter. I like what he's doing, but he's got to keep his eyes on the receiver. As soon as his head.
2 backs and 2 tight ends. Play fake to Moore, looking up top for basket. Got him behind his man. Flag down, the catch is good at the 1-yard line. He got in behind Ernest Gordon, but it didn't matter. The basket comes up limping a little bit.
Well, again, this is the only pass they've shown throwing out of this formation, what Ernest Gordon does. Now, he does a better job. I like him to be putting his hand right there. He's looking up.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Good morning, Albuquerque. My name is Ryan Tamori, and this is not the Pit Press Live. This is the Morning Howl. What did I write? What is the term I came up with? A UNM football game day preview show. We are going to be coming to you live every Saturday, except for, well, one football game because it's on a Friday night. And we're going to also talk about that because I learned last night it contradicts something else that might be of more importance to Lobo fan, which isn't good for UNM football. We're happy to do this. We are starting today because I met Larry H. Miller getting an oil change done. I forgot you guys were on. Great timing. Hey, free publicity for Larry H. Miller. What didn't that used to be? Carl Malone Toyota. Got to give it up to my main man from. Yep, yeah. Got to give it up to my main man from the Salt Lake, Carl Malone. We're excited. This is primarily focused on UNM football, and I'm happy to have the whole thing here. And it's brought to you by not Gianna. It's brought.
I can hear you going on.
There we go. I had to mute Jacob. Great start. Dulce River Bakery and Coffee. I lost my train of thought there. Great start to the show. We're going to talk a lot of things like how we feel about heading into the Lobo season. We've touched on things on the Pit Press Live, but we're more focused on what this season, what Bronco Mendenhall is going to do, and kind of zone in on the first game against Montana State, which gets really interesting, not only for UNM, but I think week 0 with only 4 games, it will be interesting nationally, mainly because from a betting aspect, and we will talk about that. As always, I am joined, well, for the first time on this show, I am joined by a Lobo fan since 1970 and the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs, Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing this morning?
Doing great. Great name for the show. I think it was Eric that came up with it. So looking forward to talking Lobo football.
Don't tell that to our listeners. All the way from the Bay Area, he's a two-time offensive state lineman for San Juan. Wow, I almost forgot San Juan's name there, Rick. San Juan Mendoza, played basketball for Damian Segura, and he's also simulated the UNM football season on EA College Football 25 about 7 times. He's from the Bay Area. The Bay don't play. Mr. Richard Thompson. Ricky, how are you doing this morning?
Richard. Gentlemen, listeners, I'm fired up to be here today and talk some ball. And like Ryan said, I have been coaching the Lobos very hard on NCAA the past 3 weeks, staying up the wee hours of the night. You know, my coworkers at work don't understand why I'm so tired every day. They don't understand I'm hitting the pavement, recruiting every night, staying up, modifying these playbooks. So, yeah, I know a lot about the team now, and I'm ready to talk about it, brother.
I think about our friend Steven Pino. We went to the EA. That game had just come out, and we went to the UNM alumni game for the TBT. And, we know some of the players because of our friend Mike, who was a manager, which I name drop all the time on here. And people were asking him how he was doing. And he was like, man, I got this 3-star that I'm trying to lock down to go to Arizona State. Nobody knew what the hell he was talking about. And he only had the one recruit in his recruiting board, I think, which was just one 3-star that he was trying to get to come to Arizona State, which I wish he would have taken a picture of. But there's a method to his madness. Who knows? That 3-star could have changed his entire dynamic and the entire Arizona State football program. My business partner and co-owner and the visual director, I don't know, of New Mexico Alumni Media, which was what we call our company legally. It's our legal name, is Mr. Eric Malton. Eric, how you doing this morning?
Hey, what's up, fellas? I'm good. Slowly caffeinating myself. But Ed, I can't take any credit for the name of the show. I have to give that all to Rick Thompson. That was his idea. I just came up with the logo, but happy to jump on. I'm happy to kick off. Happy to jump into this new show. I think it's exciting. I don't think anyone's really done it before. It's been a really long time. So happy to kind of be chopping it up with you guys. So let's get into it.
Well, I can tell you what, I hope we're better than whatever is on 610 right now. The F or right in the P show or whatever it's called. Joining us, and we're finally glad to have him back. He is, nobody knows college basketball prospects or recruits or baseball prospects, at least that I know. And he's going through a transformation, but college football. Oh, I got to do it. If anybody's seen Total Recall,
2 weeks,
2 weeks away, the original Total Recall, none of that Colin Farrell bullshit. Mr. Jacob Neff, you can find him on Twitter at NM Sportscapper, which I need to do here. There we go, guys. Jacob, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us. I hope you're glad to be back.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just busy during the week like crazy. So unfortunately, it's hard for me to join the weekday shows now. But yeah, happy to be back. Happy to talk about some Lobo sports. Football's back, which is amazing for us Americans because we all know how much we love our football. Glad to be back with all the guys. It's been a while since I've been on the show. And sorry, I was not on mute to start the show to get my daughter to stop screaming in the background, so that way there wasn't any distractions. But yeah, can't wait to talk about it. Talk about the betting aspect. That's my favorite thing, and we'll get into it.
It was almost like mom.
Nothing like yelling at your kids in the morning.
Yeah,
it's my favorite pastime. Also,
it's the way that you got to start your day as a parent. Otherwise, it's not normal.
Coffee and yelling at your kids.
My child's like a 6-year-old man. He's on his tablet like a 6-year-old man reading the newspaper. So at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning, go figure. And this is not how I wanted to start my morning, but I will. Jimmy H, this is Saturday. I should be asleep. This Saturday, I should be asleep. Sorry. This is Saturday. I should be asleep. I made a mistake of setting my clocks by the start times for these shows. The boss fired me on Wednesday. I will use this one because it's plugging Dulce River Bakery. What is it? Oh my goodness. Bakery and Coffee. Make sure I got it right. Bakery and Coffee. I need some Dulce River coffee right now. I bet this is the only morning show in America that does a pregame show for Skim. I'm going to let Trick Daddy.
Can't hear it.
Oh, no. You can't hear it? Darn it.
No. Nice try, though.
Well, so much for that joke. It was Trick Daddy's Shut Up that I was trying to play. But Jimmy H, we appreciate you listening. All right. We're going to start here because I think that this is probably one of the most important aspects of this game on a national level. And we have talked about it. And that is the betting line. This is consensus on Action Network. And Action Network is a big deal. And I'll let Jacob Neff explain it because we were talking about it the other night. Montana State is now a 9-point favorite. On the road as an FCS team and a minus 340 favorite. So if you wanted to win $100 on Montana State, you would have to bet 340, which is pretty big odds. The over-under is what it is right now. I would imagine the way Montana State runs the ball, I'm not sure, but in college football, who knows? I'd probably take that over. Neff, I'm going to start with you because you're back with us on the show. This line opened up at 4.5. When you see this, explain everything you know.
Sure. So I'll tell you what it means. It means depending on how many big bettors are betting on on Montana State, Vegas is going to need Montana State the Lobos really bad in this game. If a spread doubles, that usually means that what they're trying to do in Vegas is if a spread starts at 4.5 and it creeps up to 6, the reason why they're moving that line towards the Lobos is because they're trying to get tickets on the other side. Well, that hasn't happened yet, and it just keeps inflating. You don't see spreads double very often, and that means that the consensus or the sharps or the public, whatever you want to say in this case, because we don't really know. Usually the sharps bet more towards the beginning, at the end of the week or right when the game starts. But what the public's telling you is they don't think that there's any line that can stop you from betting Montana State at this point, because it went from 4.5 to 9, and you don't see that very often. You have 87% of the money right now that has been bet on this game through sports books across the country being on Montana State, which means only 13% is on the Lobos. So no matter how much money that is, because it's week 0, there's only a certain amount of games that you can bet on. I would have to assume that the liability on Montana State's pretty big right now for a spread to have doubled. But you can see why this is the case, because you've got a team that's rebuilding, a team that's being put together, and Montana State's nothing to sneeze over, even though you can tell that that you could say that they're an FCS school. They made the playoffs last year. They lost to North Dakota State by 1 in the FCS first round of the playoffs. But North Dakota State ended up going on and losing in double overtime in the semifinals to almost make the FCS national championship game. So they gave them all they could handle and lost by 1. And really, you look into it, I think that people are doubting the Lobos' ability to stop the run at this point, because that's what Montana State's going to do when they show up. They're going to run the ball. They don't pass very often. And the only thing I can think of is that if this spread keeps climbing, people just don't think the Lobos can stop the run at this point. But there's going to be a huge liability week 0 is what they call it now, on Montana State for Vegas this opening weekend in football. And the Lobos look like they're under the microscope for being somebody that Vegas is going to need in week 0 because of how much money's coming into Montana State.
Ed, I'm going to go to you because, and I know I make jokes, but I'm doing this because you have been around a lot longer than us. And I'm asking, and no, I'm asking
No,
because
say the
of
least.
the
No,
lo-
it's not longer. Yeah.
no, I'm asking, I'm trying to do this
Right.
respectfully.
I know.
Is
I'm
is
old, man.
because
I get it. I am.
well, and I can go make point at my mom and tell her she's old. I'll do that later. Even though that means I'm getting older. But the reason I'm asking that is because I sent you a link last night. Some of us hadn't been born when all of a sudden on my YouTube, there were some, and it was Ned James, who we love. Ned James, we'll get him on the show. He's on 610 the pregame, or he's on 770 the pre halftime and postgame show with JJ Buck. I think. I don't know if they've changed because they're, so much. So the UNM athletic program is the Department of Defense. Plausible deniability. When you hear that, for somebody who has been around the program a lot longer and they've had their struggles, and I sent you that video, that YouTube link last night where there was nobody in the stands. How, I guess, I don't want to use the term bad, but I am. I don't think this is a good look for the program at the moment. Now, Bronco, we could look back in 2 years if he wins and be like, haha, Montana State. But when you see on a national scale of Vegas having, and the way the money's come in, and they've opened up as favorites, when you see that as a diehard Lobo fan for all these years, how does that make you feel, I guess, on the status of the program?
Well, you know what? There's nothing we can speak to about that. But listen to what Jacob said. They're doubting UNM's ability to run, to stop the run. They average over 200 yards rushing per game, 291 yards rushing per game. They scored 39.9 points per game. Their quarterback, Tommy Malloy, is a dual threat, 3,241 passing yards, 2,474 rushing yards. It's not a surprise to me. It's not. I looked at it this morning, though, and College Football Network predicted Montana State 31 to UNM 14. But they also said, hey, Coach Mendenhall will get them there, not just yet. It's going to take some time. I'm not one to sit there and say, well, Coach Mendenhall lost his first game. All is lost. That's it. I'm not that one. Now, is it a surprise that they're an underdog to an FCS team? Listen to Jacob's breakdown of why they are. Montana State's nothing to sneeze at. UNM, there's a lot of question marks. And, they lost a lot, a lot of talent. Nobody knows what they have. Nobody knows. So I don't think it's too much of a surprise. And we mentioned, but Montana State is FCS, but they're a solid team. New Mexico, they don't know if New Mexico can stop the run. New Mexico was penalty plagued last year. What team are you going to get? Nobody knows. So I don't think it's that much of a surprise, nor do I look at it like, oh, man, it's the end, the be-all that ends all. That's it for Mendenhall at all. I don't look at it like that. But if you think about what Jacob said, there's a reason why all the money's with Montana State. It makes sense. It really does. No one knows what New Mexico has. So, someone that's been a fan of the program for a very long time, I'm still optimistic. But Montana State, when they return 5 offensive linemen, 3 of their best 4 running backs, one of their best receivers, they put some pressure on defense. They sack the quarterback. So all those things considered, New Mexico started out at 4. Am I surprised it's 9? I looked at the College Football Network this morning. I'm like, gosh, when did that happen? So there you have it. I think Jacob's breakdown makes a lot of sense why all the money's on Montana State.
I'll get Rick's thoughts last on this because I'm hoping they might be comical. Eric, I mean, what are your thoughts overall, just in general, on a national scale, I think?
Well, you see that number, it kind of jumps out at you. It's hard not to side with the Sharps and all the people in Vegas that are coming up with the spread like that. I think it's pretty obvious that everyone's siding with Montana State here, just due to the facts of last year and their success. I'm heading into this year, they're preseason number 4 in the FCS nationally. The Lobos are in a rebuild, right? They're, 60 brand new players, and it's really hard to predict how well or how not well they're gonna perform on the field. They're still developing some type of chemistry. I know that there's a lot of confidence there. We've seen it just at the practice field, conducting some of the interviews we had with the players. They feel good going into the season with what they have. They feel, and they, I mean, UNM feels confident that they have the weapons to go out and score points. Now, with a team like Montana State, who's notoriously known to run the ball well, the Lobos up front, the guys in the trenches, the defensive line and the linebackers, how well are they going to hold up? I think Ed touched on it yesterday in our group text, and maybe he mentioned it a little bit ago, but the depth, right? Like where are these guys? They're all transfers for the most part. They're all new to the program. How deep are they? How long can they go? And you know what? When you're out in the field, Rick, I didn't play much football in high school, but you did. Ed, you did. When you're constantly getting run over by a team that just kind of gets first down after first down, starts milking the clock, and you can't stop them, like you kind of just lose a little bit of hope. You kind of lose a little bit of dignity, and it's hard to gain your confidence in a game like that. And I feel like Montana State has the experience. I was trying to quickly look up Montana State's returning roster, how many guys they have coming back, but it looks like they have a lot of upperclassmen. They just have guys around the program that have been there for a long time.
20 or 30 seniors, right? Tamari, we were talking about it the other night. I think they over 20 returning seniors, so they're very experienced.
Well, you look at those guys, a lot of them might have that COVID year too, right? Like the COVID super seniors that are pretty much grown men. And you talk about guys like Dampier, who's really only 19 years old, ton of confidence, but really like they haven't played a real game yet. So to me, it sounds like the number's right. Listening to Jacob talk about it, he feels pretty confident it's where it needs to be. But I want to be on the side with the Lobos and kind of sitting with Vegas that we want to see them do well. We want to see them win, but it's hard when you look at a number like that.
I'll move on. We'll move on from that. I think that's just a fascinating line and where this program is and what it's been for the last decade, even with the couple of New Mexico Bowl appearances by Bob Davie. It's just, I don't know. I'm going to go to the comments real quick. Coach Mendenhall recently said that our D-line was the strength of the team. We shall see how mighty Montana State runs the ball. I am from Missouri. You have to show me. At least these guys were at Montana State last year. Do we believe Bronco has spoken to this team about this stuff? I don't think there's no way. This is bulletin board stuff. I don't know if Bronco Mendenhall is really using this stuff. I think they're concerned about themselves and in the now. They're not worried about the outside noise. Go ahead, Rick.
I listened to the interview Devin Dampier, D4, did with Mr. Portnoy yesterday on the Lobos podcast, and he mentioned that Bronco came home from Vegas in the media days, and he told the team that they're being disrespected by the media. That's how he felt, the feeling he got, and he translated that message to the team. So to answer your question, yeah, Tamari, he's using all this material as bulletin board, and rightfully so. So
we were talking about this last night.
But I mean, like you're saying, can you blame the media, or like you guys are saying, anyone at this point? All the signs show a very strong Montana State team that's experienced versus a team that has a lot of question marks. And I'll let you continue, but like you're saying, it's a tough task here.
It's I mean, Bronco Mendenhall said he wouldn't have taken it if it's a challenge. He did interview with Boise State, but he had ties here. I spoke to a couple of media members in Vegas. Not that we know everything, but a lot of people thought it wasn't just a great hire, but it was the best hire in the country. So throwing that out there. If you lived in Montana, you'd be able to run too. I don't get it. Just throwing that out there. I don't get it. All right. One of the other things, and I thought this was good. Projected attendance for the Montana State game at University Stadium. This does not bode well, I think, for attendance for UNM, because if they do lose to Montana State, then you go to Arizona, who's going to be a top 25 team. Auburn's on the cusp under Hugh Freeze of being a top 25 team. You do that in a 3-week period because they have a bye. But Ed, this is something we've talked about a lot. I probably expect 20, 22. You've said it, and I kind of feel the same way. I expect 20 to 22,000 people at the stadium for game one. It's 2:00 in August. Was still a full week to go in August. It's obviously for TV rights because the game's on Fox Sports 1. It's on FS1. Ed, you've mentioned a little bit on the Pit Press Live. How do you feel the attendance will be for this game?
Real quick, I've just got a quick comment from somebody that sent it to me on Messenger. Nick Trujillo's dad, Nick Trujillo's a wide receiver for the Lobos. His dad, Freddie. The Lobos will stop the run. Lobos have plenty of film on Montana State. Bronco can and will game plan for anyone with plenty of notice. Montana State doesn't have any film on UNM and has no idea what the Lobos will do. If you want to lose money, bet against the Lobos. That's from Freddie Trujillo, the father of Nick Trujillo, wide receiver for the Lobos.
There he is. And there he is.
Yeah, there
the
he
question
is.
Here is Montana. The question here is, can Montana step what they don't know what they're doing or what they are going to be facing? That's very true. I mean, that is definitely in UNM's favor. Is
legitimate question, legitimate statement, legitimate comment, I should say, because
no, it is. I wholeheartedly agree.
Okay, so back to the attendance. I said, okay, so it's August 24, 2 p.m. They project 94 degrees out there. I said, I'm hoping 18, or 18 to 20. I don't know that you'll get any more than that. The curiosity factor, I'd love to see 25 or 27. I'd say I'll stick with about 20 to 22. That's my projection.
Jacob, I'm going to go to you on this one because we always kind of joke about it. But what is your crystal ball say for attendance there?
Well, I think it's a new team. It's a it's a new fresh start. There will be hope from everybody, right? Because that's what the new season brings for all sports, right? It's a fresh start. It's a new beginning. It's Bronco, it's somebody that has ties to UNM. There's some players on this team. And I think ultimately with it being a national televised game, I think you'll probably get about 20 to 22. The question I think then turns to, if they don't win and it's bad, what do you get for the rest of the year? You know what I mean? I think you always expect a strong home opener, right? Or a strong beginning of the season. But, like you said, if they don't come out and beat Montana State and then they go to Arizona and Auburn, what does it look like for the rest of the season, right? But I think it'll be a strong start to people coming out, because they'll just be excited to see what this team's going to bring, right? It's all a question mark right now. Nobody could really say or know what's going to happen, how well Bronco's going to have them prepared, what kind of motivation they're running off of, what some of these new players bring to the table. I mean, we've never seen anything yet, right? So I think that's what will intrigue people to go out and watch live the first game here in Albuquerque. So I think, like you guys' projection of 20 to 22,000, I think that's probably pretty accurate. If we got more than that, that would be great for us, obviously.
Rick, you'll be watching on TV, so we'll talk about that down the stretch because I know your thoughts on what that stadium will look like on FS1. Ronnie Chavez, there will at least be a few in attendance. My son, myself, couple buddies. I mean, yeah, you do have your diehards that go to every game. I think the projected attendance is. I don't think it's going to be good. And again, looking at the schedule, if they don't beat Montana State in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
You're at U of A, you get a week, then you're at Auburn, Fresno State. I don't know. No, I don't think anybody knows what's going on in Cruces with Tony Gonzalez down there. Air Force is getting top 25 votes. Utah State, that's a situation. I think Colorado State's going to be a lot better. Wyoming's usually good. Sean Lewis is going to have some time to figure it out at San Diego State. It says November 9th. I think they changed that game to November 8th. I need to look that up. I believe that's a Friday night game, which now coincides with the UCLA UCLA and UNM men's basketball game. I've got to double check that because maybe I was looking at the wrong thing at 12:30 in the morning and I was exhausted. But I don't know just how that schedule lines up for these guys. I think it's it's just going to be tough. But again, they're out there to prove us wrong. And then one of the switching gears here to actual players. Do we know who is going to back up Devin Dampier? Probably Justin Holiday, who has had starts for this team. He will be designated as football player. He will wear number 87. He's 6'3", 200. I hope he has to go in the game wearing 87. That would be fantastic. Rick, you've played football, so you're a resident, and Jacob, so you guys are our resident football players. Does having a set backup add ease to your mind or no?
I think it would for me, because the way I expect the Lobos to play, and I know Mr. Trujillo's right, we have no clue what the hell the Lobos are going to do on either side of the ball. But what I think they're going to do is run the read option similarly to what Montana State's going to do, because that's the skill set that Devin Dampier has. And in seeing that, I think you would also want a backup that could run the read option in case that Dampier goes down. Let's hope he does not, but the chances are that at some time he'll probably have to come out for a few plays. It looks like the other options at quarterback I saw on the roster last night is, of course, returning senior from Rio Rancho, Isaiah Chavez, a sophomore, Ryan Cook, who transferred from South Dakota School of Mines but went to La Cueva, junior Emery Floyd, a junior college transfer, and then a name I have never seen, junior James Lobestein, and then the transfer they got from BYU, who is listed as a running back but did play quarterback, and that's Soljay Mavia Peters. And I'd actually like to see that guy get some time somewhere. He just seems like a dynamic player that can play any position. So as far as who the backup will be, I think we still don't know. It looks like there's 4 or 5 options, but I think it's safe to say it won't be Justin Holiday wearing number 87 as a quarterback. I mean, it could be some type of elaborate scheme to throw people off, like the Wildcat, where they have a quarterback, split out all the way to the side. But I think after Dampier, there's definitely a question marks, because we don't know anything about these other quarterbacks. I don't know if you guys have other thoughts.
Yeah, well, I will say, like, I've with the few practices that I have been able to attend, that Emery Floyd, the JUCO transfer, fits more of what Devin Dampier's game is supposed to look like, right? He's a real athletic, real elusive quarterback, likes to get out into open space and run. He actually looked to be taking like more reps than Holiday did. The practice that I was at, he was kind of second in line. I don't know if the practice order and the snap order was any indication of what the depth chart and the order of that looks like, but Emery Floyd did look like he was super fast, got the ball out of his hands quick, was kind of running some of those read options that you mentioned, Rick. So if I had to take a stab at it, I'd probably say that he might be the one to kind of fit into that offense that they're looking to run. I know that a lot of the drops and practice plays that they were running were quick releases. So 1, 2, drop step, get the ball out, get the ball to playmakers in open space, a lot of running backs out of the backfield. Obviously they're not going to rely on putting someone back there and having the offensive line hold up for 3 seconds, right? They're trying to get the ball out of their hands quickly, and having a quick decision maker like Dampier either get the ball out or take off is kind of what they're going to be leaning on. So I think Emery Floyd kind of fits that mold a little bit better than Holiday does, but Holiday just has more of the experience and more of the snaps to kind of go off of.
I think for the entire well-being of the University of New Mexico football season, I'm not a religious man, but I'm praying to God that Devin Dampier does not get hurt, because one, he's dynamic to watch, and 2, he's going to be maybe the most integral part, I think, besides maybe the wide receivers or the running backs, and we'll talk about that. Ed, I'm going to go back to you. Can you, I threw Donovan Portery's name out on our show, the Pit Press Live. When's the last time you think that this football program had such an athlete like Devin Dampier, who, by the way, was a 4-star recruit coming out of Arizona?
Lamar Jordan, comes to mind, but he was more of a running quarterback.
point.
Lamar Jordan was a heck of an athlete. I think he got a tryout in the pros as a receiver, but he wasn't a thrower. As Austin Apodaca came in and got a lot of snaps with that team as the drop back throwing quarterback. And I think you're right about Dampier. And Eric, you make a good point too about how they're going to get the ball out a couple steps here and there. There a lot of pre-snap motion, they said. So Devin Dampier is a real key. I think we all know that, to the the success or failure of the Lobo football team. So you mentioned Emory Floyd, Eric, and hopefully he can develop into that second quarterback. Because one thing's for sure, they're going to need a guy to go back in there and take maybe 8 to 10 snaps a game. They've done that for a long time. Isaiah Chavez, people really like him. The team talks about what a leader he is. I've always thought of him as an 8 to 10 snap guy. He's not a big thrower. He can run the football a little bit. He's not going to, scare anybody with his throwing arm. But I think with his leadership ability, won a couple of games seems like eons ago in Las Vegas when they were under COVID restrictions. He's been there for a while. So, but I think it's key that they develop somebody. Justin Holiday was working with the tight ends the other day, and he's number 87. So I don't know. He hasn't taken a lot of snaps out there. But I think it's key that they develop somebody to definitely go in there for Devin Dampier, and hopefully he stays upright the whole year.
And the only other quarterback with a number so far is Chavez, who you mentioned. So Holiday, Chavez, and Dampier are the only ones who have earned a jersey number so far.
What I was thinking about was when somebody called Isaiah Chavez the Tom Brady of New Mexico, or some people did when they called him. He won 2 games on the road in Vegas, and he beat Wyoming and Fresno State, and he was the Tom Brady of New Mexico. It's a great story. I love it. I just think that comparison is, very New Mexican to make. We're going to talk about Andrew Henry because we can't talk about him enough. Rick and I love him. Rick loves his sound bites. For these program shows, are you guys lobbying? Yes, we're lobbying the opponent's radio person to come on before the game, or is that not the plans? We're trying to lobby any guest. What this show is today is our kickoff show. So we're getting the kinks out of the way, like Jacob yelling Gianna, like Will Ferrell in Wedding Crashers, Mom the Meatloaf. Fuck. You're on mute, Eric.
No, I was just going to say that. Shut up. I can hear you.
Yeah, no, I'm clipping that. We're using that. Shut up, Gianna. So we're working out the kinks. That is the plan. We have this week on our weekday show, the Pit Press Live, which now the acronym is TPP. So I didn't think that one through. That's that UNM education. Cole McCamey Tuesday. We have the new beat writer down at the Las Cruces Sun News. Eric, what's his name? And I don't mean that like, oh, what's his name? Like, well, I forgot the kid's name. He's really
Nick Capola. Did I say that right? Capola, Nick.
Oh,
seemed like a really young kid.
Yeah, Nick. Hopefully he's Italian. Hey,
I'm just glad that New Mexico State finally has someone covering.
Yeah, I know. I hope he's Italian. So hey, the gabago. Devin Tom Brady is the Devin Dampier of the NFL. That is the stupidest. Jimmy, you're on fire this morning. Can you guys hear this now? Damn it. You gotta fix that. All right. Next topic, and I guess we're going position by position, but that's what we wanted to do. I don't even know if I finished my thoughts on this. Yes, we are trying to have as many guests on this show as possible. I tell that to Eric all the time when we're talking behind the scenes. I was a journalist. I'll talk to anybody and anybody. I got to thank Ed. He's been able to round up some great football players for us. Mike Mahorek. He's got the Highland guys, Mike Mahorek, Ian Clark. Dontrell Moore will be not joining us this week, next week. But again, we've got Cole McCamey lined up. Ed, who is the lineman you had lined up? It wasn't Claude Terrell. I just kept thinking that name.
No, Calvin McDonald. I've got to get a hold of him. I tried to call him yesterday, but I'll try again today. Yeah, he's to be a big lineman for New Mexico.
No, perfect. That would be awesome. Yeah, we're trying to fill as many guests. We're trying to have as many former football players on as we can. Unfortunately, when the fact that we do our show at the time we do on weeknights, I haven't asked for any players on the team currently because I don't think that would be permitted. I know I haven't asked but trust me, because they're invaded Normandy, loose lips sink ships. I don't think I would be able to nab them. We do have an interview with Mountain West Conference Commissioner Gloria Navarez lined up. That will be the week of the game. I'm trying to get as many guests as we want. Colby Dant from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network will be joining us Wednesday night. So again, we've got, and we'll figure out what we've got Thursday, but we've got several guests lined up this week. And again, hopefully the new kid at the Las Cruces Sun News has got the gobble go. All right.
Jet sweep, quick screen, inside zone, outside zone counter. You give me the ball, I'm score.
He can score from any part of the field. Yeah, Rick, I knew you'd love that. Andrew Henry is one of my favorite players. Last year, 350 yards and 3 TDs behind Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. They were Dalla, Bill, y'all. Cash rolls everything around me. I don't have a career in R&B or rap, so forgive me. But I'm excited for Andrew Henry. He's one of the senior guys. He's played. He's been at the D1 level. I love his enthusiasm. When we talked to him, he seemed excited. And from, what we're trying to do aspect, at the end of it, he shook our hand and said, I love doing this shit. So hopefully we can get him on more. I hope he has a good year. Eric loved him. I don't know if Eric's talked about him enough, but here we go. Very, very quickly to backtrack on the quarterbacks. Freddie Trujillo, Coach Mendenhall has referred to Isaiah as Taysom Hill type player. Isaiah will play. It'll be situational, but he'll be in there. That's awesome to hear. Don't tell that to our friend Damon Lucero, who thought Taysom Hill was a future Hall of Famer and bet burritos for the rest of his life, breakfast burritos for the rest of his life with one of our friends. That's out of context. Rick may have gotten that. But anyway, that's exciting to hear. I like that. Eric, I don't think you were on when we spoke about Andrew Henry, but what kind of energy, what did you like about speaking to him and what he can bring to this football team?
Oh, he's definitely a voice in the locker room. Highly outspoken, flashy, brings a ton of energy, and a leader. Overall, I think that's the important piece. I think a lot of people look at him as a leader in that locker room, and he's one of the guys that wants to lead by example and definitely set the tone at practice. He talks about trying to be as involved as he can in just about everything, even taking reps on special teams. I think that was one of the things that Bronco Mendenhall kind of carried over from his Rocky days when he was the defensive coordinator here, and just kind of earning your way through different schemes. And if you're on special teams, like, you better go balls out on special teams to kind of earn your way into the rotation on the defensive side of things. And I think we've had a few former players even mention that too, Ed. So that's kind of that's kind of the culture that everyone's kind of abiding by. And Andrew Henry has definitely encapsulated himself with that and kind of taken his word and run with it. And definitely one of the guys that's kind of paving the way for this season. And man, I really hope that he can be the guy to just kind of bear the load. He's not a super big guy, but he's definitely going to see more of his role increase, more carries, more touches. He's also a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield. I know Rick had some stuff written up, just kind of on an overall scouting report on kind of the backfield and other running backs and stuff like that. So maybe it's a good opportunity for him to talk about that. But Andrew Henry, man, I really hope he has a good year, because he's definitely got the skill set to do it, and one of those home run type hitters.
Yeah, and he had 350 yards last year. And
Sport.
Go ahead. Oh, you're playing it over while I'm talking.
I'm
sorry.
I was playing the soundbite for you.
I do enjoy that guy's energy.
You have the floor now.
I think he will be the leader in the backfield, but I think it's going to be running back by committee. If we watch college football today, that's usually how it's played. And I think with the weapons they have, they should. They have former teammate of Devin Dampier, Javen Jacobs, and it sounds like he can be split out and will be able to be more of a pass catcher. But what Dampier was saying in his interview yesterday with Portnoy is that, Jacobs is electric, and their chemistry, they're going to be calling it the Arizona Heat when they're both back there in the backfield. So I think he has something to prove. And then the other running back from Iowa State, the transfer Eli Sanders, it looks like he has more of a freelancing run style. And I think he's going to get a lot of touches also. He's also from Arizona and actually played against Dampier in high school. So I think they have a good combination of those three running backs that all bring a little bit of different skill set. And I think, you guys were mentioning what type of offense, we're going to see. I think there will be a lot of motion, a lot of crossing, and just deception to try to fool the defense because, they don't want to have to hold up long periods of time on the O-line, like Ed said, when we have a lot of question marks there right now. But I think the skill positions are loaded, and I know we'll talk about the receivers also, but I feel pretty good about these running backs.
I think what's interesting too, Rick, is you mentioned Jacobs and also Eli Sanders, their ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and being able to use them either as like a slot receiver or even catch on some play action plays and being able to take. I mean that one play against Utah State that Andrew Henry took to the house last year, I think was one of those plays where he caught the ball out of the backfield. So having a committee of running backs that can do that, kind of got to keep not only the linebackers and the safeties kind of in the box and aware of that. It kind of opens up the passing game a little bit too. And they've got some decent, I know that the Lobos are really high on some of their skill set players on the outside, some of their wideouts. So I think that's what we were going to talk about next. But they've got some options back there, that's for sure.
And if he's talking to Sidney Sweeney, he's already winning in life. So good for him.
That is one of my favorite social media things right now. At first, I thought it was like the truth for some other teams when they're putting pictures of their star player out with Sidney Sweeney. But once I saw a few of the guys, I found out it was a joke. But hey, if Caleb is dating her, hats off.
Yeah.
Well, he'd have to be on the show all the time because we'd have to get his insight. The biggest question is the offensive line. It's completely new. I love, Rick, that you included this in the notes. College football video game as a star. EA's college football has Barack Beckett, who's Cy Riley knew, Wallace Unamba, Juwan Singletary, Isaiah Silliman, and Mackenzie Angelo Lindy's. And I know that Sean Ryder of the Journal spoke about it, is Unamba, Beckett, Singletary, Pierce, and Angelo. It's a completely new unit. The offensive line was the strength of this team last year. Rick, you've played offensive line. Jacob, you were a tight end in high school. Rick, I'm not trying to defer back to you, but I mean, how important is it for these guys to gel?
I think it's going to be something that evolves over the course of the season. And the first game, the communication probably won't be what we want it to be because these things take time. As a lineman, you have to be very smart. You have to know where everyone is going on the play so that you're in the right position. And if you can't trust that center or the tackle next to you, then you're not going to be able to do your job correctly. So communication is key. The sooner that they can hammer down who the starters are going to be and those guys can get reps and practice, to me, that's going to be most important. If they're still trying to figure that out, 3 weeks into the season and they're still trying to solidify the line, I think, it's going to be a work in progress. But like you said, they did average 27 points a game last year and ran the ball extremely well, but this is a whole new O-line and a whole new group of guys. But the good news is they should all have something to prove because they wanted to come here and they wanted to play for this program. So I have faith in them, but I'm not expecting a stellar play out of the gates by any means.
No, I think they'll definitely be rust out of the gates. I mean, we're going to know immediately in
2 weeks
what this offensive line brings. Jacob, you played tight end, or I thought you had played offensive line. I guess you played tight end, but I mean, you're kind of a mixture of that. I'm kind of throw the same question at you. I mean, how important it is, the next guy to you is the most important. What do you think of this new offensive line?
Well, yeah, I mean, like Rick was saying, it's the communication that's key. I mean, you've got to be able to know if this guy blitzes down the A gap, B gap, whatever the case is, who's going to pick him up. Are you going to shift out to the outside, especially on passing downs? When it's, running downs, are you blocking down? There's so many different adjustments that you have to make. When people throw that at you, and I would be surprised if a team doesn't test them off the bat, right? When you have an unexperienced group that's not worked together very often, there's going to be miscommunication, in the first couple of weeks because you're just doing your instincts or whatever the case is, or if the communication isn't 100%, you're gonna accidentally pick up the wrong guy here and there, or you'll have Dampier running around in the backfield trying to scramble to keep the play alive. So the communication is going to be key to that. The next thing that you have to look at is pulling, and I haven't had Eric's had the ability to go in there and do a lot of scouting on the practices and stuff like that. I don't really know how they look, but that's going to be a key aspect of it too, because if the Lobos are going to run that option, like you guys were saying, that run pass option, that's going to be important, because that could lead to a lot of penalties too. Obviously, people down the field, legal man downfield, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to take a while for him to gel. But that's going to be a key aspect of this team, because if they want to use the positions that they're strong in, which is Dampier's athleticism, Henry's running ability, the depth at running back, they're definitely going to need to have the offensive line clicking. So that's going to be super important. And you never really talk about the big guys on teams, right? They don't get the most spotlight when it comes to when you talk about Dampier and all these flashy players, but it's going to take those guys to be able to make those guys successful. So I think we'll get a good idea of it at the beginning of the season, but hopefully it just continues to get stronger as it goes on.
This offense last year under Bryant Vincent, who obviously, the regime's gone, they did put up 27 points a game last year. Dampier had in the 2 or 3 games he started 525 passing yards, 328 rushing yards, and 10 total touchdowns. That was pretty much in 3 or 4 games. I was talking about Thursday night how high I am on the wide receiving room. Caleb Medford returns. I love his energy. Luke Weissong and Nick Trujillo are both local guys, and then you get Sean Miller out of Illinois. So you've got somebody with Big Ten experience there. But to me, if one of these guys goes down, I think the biggest question is probably overall depth. And do they have enough quality players to hold up during the whole season? I mean, that's one thing that we've kind of talked about is if Devin Dampier goes down, we had mentioned the backup. I mean, where does this team go? So I think that's a key point, that's not a key point. That's a big concern probably for Brockelman and Holland, is just as a fan and an objective reporter, somebody in the media. I mean, that's a concern of mine. I hope for everyone's sake, Devin Dampier does stay healthy, because I think there is some potential for this team to have some success. I've mentioned on the Pit Press Live, I think I look at it, it could be an 0-12 schedule. It could be an 0-12 record or a 7-5 record. Because if they're clicking and they're getting some of these teams, on the back end of this schedule, like the Colorado States, the Utah States, New Mexico, Hawaii is going to be much improved. San Diego State has a lot of question marks. I don't know how good Washington State's going to be, but I think that, down the stretch, there's a real possibility of, sorry, Eric, I messed up that frame, but down the stretch, I think there's some real possibility that the offensive could be electric. Now, on the opposite side of the ball, the defense, they gave up 35 points a game last year. It was horrendous. The team was penalized as a whole. They averaged, I think, 11 a game, and they were the most penalized team behind Colorado or ahead of Colorado. I forgot. The secondary, we've talked about it. Tavian Combs, Christian Ellis. We talked to Bobby Arnold from Dodge City, a JUCO. You've got a couple JUCO guys the big question is, how are you replacing Dante Martin and then Bayside's own Zach Morris? But it's, the defense has to be much improved. Jacob, that was something that we talked about. And when we watched games last year, how bad the defense was, what can you expect from, I guess, kind of this defense and what this year? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard, right? I mean, it's going to be a rebuild. It's a total rebuild in a lot of sense because, there's going to be. I think they're going to have to try people at positions, and they're going to take their best guess at who should start, right? But then there might be guys that, show themselves out as somebody that's going to, get more playing time, right? And so. I don't really know what to expect here. We'll get an idea in the first couple weeks. I mean, they have some really strong tests in the first 3 weeks. You know how high I am on Noah Fafita. I think he's ridiculous. I think he could be an under the radar Heisman candidate. He's got a lot of big weapons there. McMillan's going to be an unbelievable task for whoever guards him or has to match up against him. Against UNM, obviously Auburn's going to test them, and like we said, Montana State's going to test them too. So it's hard to say and predict how they're going to do. But I think it's going to start with, can they stop the run? Because if you can't stop the run, it usually just bleeds into the game. You know what I mean? People find your weakness, they wear you down, and then they have you cheating up on the run, and then that opens up the pass game, right? So I think it's going to start with stopping the run and being good up front. And then if they can stop the run and force teams into passing situation, especially Montana State, where they love to run the ball, if they could get ahead of the sticks, that's going to be good for them. And then obviously once you get to Auburn and Arizona, they're going to be more well-balanced teams, but it's going to start by stopping the run. So that way you don't have the liability on the back end by having to cheat up front to stop the run. So I'm not really quite sure what to expect yet, but it's going to start with stopping the run for sure.
I posed this question to Ed. How much difference will Mendenhall make, do you think?
You mentioned, okay, so Jacob, you mentioned, the offensive line. You mentioned the A gap and the communication between the offensive line as a tight end at Cibola when you played for Judge Chavez. You blocked a lot, Beth. You ran routes and but you blocked a lot. Now, we mentioned the offensive line, things like that. Now, Sean Ryder has written this, the attention to detail. 2 weeks ago, they didn't do the punt team right. He gets them back out there again. Attention to detail. How much difference will coaching make? How much difference does scouting make? Scouting's big. We know he's had success at Virginia and BYU. Not so much in the first year of Virginia, 2-10. Then he turned them around. See, we know there, again, I've mentioned that, the Mendenhall effect. I'm going to keep saying that. There has been an effect on the win-loss record. Is there an effect? We had Landrick Brody say that starters were battling to get on the kickoff team. They run through the wall for this guy, although that we said this when we talked to him. He's very calculated and precise. You don't get that, hey, man, wow. The way he speaks to other people, the way he talks to his team must be a different thing. I think he's going to make an effect right away. I really do. Now, Jacob, you mentioned why you think it's going to be a tough game against Montana State. You played football. You know that. Once teams start running downhill and getting short yardage on second down, it's easy for them, right? For a running team. So you've got to win on first down. You've got to make it second and long for them. You have to. Otherwise, it's tough. It's tough to win for a football team that starts running downhill. So you're not kidding. It's going to be very, I think the first game, if they lose, is at the end of the world. It's not. Remember one thing. We understand the state of the program. We said it. They're 21-60 since Bob Davie had those 2 winning seasons. We understand where they're at. This is a new regime. I'm willing to say let's give them a chance and let's see what happens. Mendenhall, as we've mentioned, hasn't won here yet. Mendenhall hasn't coached a game yet either. So let's see what his effect is. And as I mentioned, I expect, Jacob, you mentioned that. What's the difference in the trenches? You win the games on the line of scrimmage, right? Defensive line, offensive line. Can they get pressure on the quarterback? Can they stop the run up front? Can the linebackers flow to the ball? Those are all keys in the first game. Now we'll see what they're like. I definitely expect them to be better than they were last year. Now, Ryan, you mentioned they have a losing season. Everyone expects them to, but if they've improved, what does that mean? Is there optimism, as I've said, going into 2025, 2026? All I'm saying is let's wait and see.
I don't like to use this term, beating a dead horse. I think that, at the Hondo 1976, what time is the start? What is the start time for Montana State? August 21st, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2:00 in the afternoon. Weatherman Jimmy H on the case. Freddie Trio, every team in the Mountain West has to work an average of 45 new players. Depth is a concern everywhere. There's new 8 Mountain West coaches. Bronco will be the most ready. I think you might. I will say this, for as negative as I've been, the theme around Vegas circa during the media days, that there's such a, Craig Bohl's not there anymore. Troy Calhoun's been at Air Force forever. He is Air Force football, essentially. Even though Bronco Mendenhall is his first year here at UNM, he was kind of seen as the father of, he was the most not senior coach, obviously not in the conference, but there you have Spencer Danielson, who's new at Boise State. Jay Norvell's been at Nevada, but he went to Colorado State. Nevada's head coach's name is escaping me, but he'll be there again. Spencer Danielson's new. Barry Odom's been there. He's got some years on him. Barry Odom knows what he's doing at UNLV. I'm really high on the UNLV team. Sean Lewis is new at San Diego State.
I was going to say there's something to say about Bronco too. I mean,
I don't mean to interrupt you, Jacob. What I was going to say, is when he got hired, you thought it was a really good hire.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you've got to look at what this guy has built and what he's done in bigger conferences. I mean, that's a bigger task than coming into a Mountain West school and rebuilding them. Taking Illinois from what he did, which was,
Virginia.
Virginia. Oh, Jesus. Virginia. Taking Virginia from a bottom half ACC school and making them a competitive bowl game type school is so much harder than to come into here and be able to, recruit players in. He has a name, and it's a national name, obviously, because he's been on a bigger stage. So, I think that obviously there's going to be panic because we've seen it with the last couple of coaches and everything, where it starts off bad and we go, oh, here we go again. But we're going to have to give him time, right? And he's obviously a good coach because he's taken some of these smaller schools in bigger conferences and made them, noteworthy, making bowl games. And that's tough in the ACC. You have to play above 500 football to make a bowl game. And half of your schedule, or more than half of your schedule, is in the conference, which you're playing North Carolina. You're playing, all these schools that are top echelon teams, and you have to beat a couple of them. So, I think that it's going to be the time factor with him, and he'll have them ready to go. I think they'll surprise us a couple times this year where maybe they beat somebody that we didn't expect them to beat. But, once that pedigree starts to move up and people start saying, hey, that team went from winning 2 games to winning 5 or 6, he'll start getting better players in here and maybe be able to turn this around. But yeah, by far, he was my favorite hire that we've had in a long time, just because of what he's been able to do around the country with, smaller schools and bigger conferences.
In 2019, he won I had the mic all the way up here. In 2019, how good is the kicking game? Aaron Rodriguez is the punter. He's been in the SEC. He's been here a while. We interviewed him. We'll get that interview up this week too. The kicker is Luke Dewitsky. I think it's a Polish last name or Eastern Europe. He's pretty reliable. I mean, Aaron Rodriguez is touted as one of the better punters in the Mountain West, as well as I think, the nation. Like, there's some recognition on him. He's going to nursing school. Sean Ryder wrote about it. I wanted to ask him about it. He was awesome to talk to. I know everybody's like, oh, well, when I told Eric, I said, hey, we're talking to Eric. We're talking to the punter. And he was like, why? And I was like, you will see why. And he was fantastic. He's a smart guy. I think he's trying to, help change the culture here. But as far as Bronco Mendenhall goes, yeah, he took him to an Orange Bowl. In 2019, they won the Coastal Division of the ACC. We've talked about that on this show. Virginia had not beaten Virginia Tech in like 15 years up to 2019. And they did it. They got him in Charlottesville. So, he's done it now, 5-5 in 2020 and 6-6 in 2021. It's a little bit of a bummer, but to get Virginia where they were, that's a big deal. I mean, that's not a program that you think of when it comes to football. It's predominantly, it's much like here. It's predominantly basketball. But, Ed, and we've talked about this a lot. And the buzzwords that have not only been thrown around by the local media, the conference media, head coach Bronco Mendenhall himself, is identity and culture. The culture under Mike Locksley, there were two, I'm going to say it, Jacob. There were two things that stunk. The culture under Mike Locksley and my ass. And makes it sound like I don't shower. I do. For Bronco is not cutting his teeth at the UNM. Arguably the other coaches are. The Boise coach and the Fresno coach were promoted within, but this is their first head coach job. Yeah, that's what I was speaking to, Freddie, is that Spencer Danielson, Rodriguez was named to the Ray Guy watch list. Yeah, he's a good punter. He's a really good punter. I think they had a hard time last year, but there were a lot of Ned James always says it, and he said you can score. Fans will go for offense. What does Ned say, Ed? Fans go for the offense, but special teams and defense will win you the game.
Right.
And their defense lacked. But Freddie, I completely agree. I have no idea. It's I hate to be negative. It's probably not good. We'll find that out. We'll try to get an answer. I'll ask my best friend in the world, Frank Mercogliano, how maybe where season tickets stand. I got to do it. Hold on.
How about I just go eat some hay? I can make things out of clay and lay by the bay. I just may.
What do you say? You had to listen to our show the other night for my terrible joke there. Spencer Danielson's new. Sean Lewis was successful at Kent State. Their offense was phenomenal. Colorado, he was offensive. He left the head coaching job at Kent State, and probably a lot of our listeners know this, to be Deion's offensive coordinator last year at Colorado. Which next week I'm going to do my top 25. I don't really care for lists, but it's content, and I'm going to do it. And it's actually a lot of fun to do. And then I'll do my top 10, my favorite games to watch. And I'll maybe ask Jacob to, maybe if he has time, to compile a list of 10 games to watch. Colorado State is on there. I've got a couple Mountain West games because, it's related to what we talk about. Colorado State is in Fort Collins, and it's not a diss on Fort Collins. I love Fort Collins. It's great. But that game is in Fort Collins.
That's on primetime Fox, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on primetime Fox or primetime ESPN. And everything that has gone there, and what Jay Norvell had said, September 4th, that is circled on my calendar. And thank God UNM's at all.
What are the odds? What are the odds that like College Game Day or someone like that's there?
I'm sure College Game Day is going to be there. You might have to look at the other games that day, but with everything that's transpired, that's there. October 24th is Boise at UNLV. I mean, I've got those games are marked, but I'm all over the place. But I wanted to say that, yeah, there's a lot of new coaches, young coaches in this conference. I think Barry Odom's, he's done it. He's well recognized. Spencer Danielson at Boise State's new. We've talked about this. Sean Lewis, that's where I was going with this, is at San Diego State. They might not be as good this year, but they're in kind of San Diego State football is in the same sitting that UNM is in, even though they've won conference championship recently. We had the East Village time in San Diego. Andre Hagverdidian, I think I said it right there. I love that guy. It's a hard name to say. Everybody butchers my last name, but we were talking about San Diego State. He was saying that 12 wins wasn't, and a conference title wasn't good enough for them. So go figure. But yeah, I think between Troy Calhoun, Barry Odom, and Bronco Mendenhall, I don't disagree with you, Freddie. I think Bronco will have this team ready to go. I think the question is the depth and if people get hurt, I mean, that can derail a season immediately. I know that's cliche, but it's true. Ed, Rick asked this question, so I'm going to pose it to you. How long do you, and that's where I was going with this, how long do you, probably whoever might start for UNLV, which is Matt Sulka, and the backup what was it? Oh man, it's going to drive me nuts. Daniels. I got to find it because it's going to drive me nuts.
Malachi's got to be up there with that question.
Yeah, Malachi
Boise State.
Nelson. The kid from Colorado State, Fowler, Nicolosi Fowler, I believe. Matt Sulka, Malik Williams, the two UNLV guys. But yeah, Malachi Nelson probably. You could maybe make an argument for Devin Dampier. Ed, that's where I was going with this before I got derailed, and I'm going to lose my voice again. Culture and identity have been the words that have been thrown around a lot. How quickly, we've kind of tapped on it, but how quickly, in your mind, do you think the culture changes have the impact on the field with Bronco Mendenhall? Yeah, Mikey Keene at Fresno.
I think what we've heard out of camp, everybody that you've interviewed, Eric and Ryan, seems to be all on board. Now that everyone's 0-0, everyone's going bowling right now. There hasn't been any games played, but has he changed the culture as far as the way he coaches? The attention to detail, do it again, perfection, guys wanting to get in on the kickoff return team. The enthusiasm seems to be there. We don't know what kind of players he has. We know Dampier was pretty solid last year. Seems like his running back room is pretty good. It's got some talent at wide receiver. Noah Avenger, the cornerback, had a pick in practice yesterday. His name has come up a little bit. We don't know. But the bottom line is they have to win and show improvement, optimism going into next season. I think he's already changed some of the culture. I really do, just by judging and based, on what we've heard. Now, we know it has to translate to the field, but with him, he's done that at Virginia Tech and BYU. He's a proven winner. So hopefully the culture is already starting to turn around, but they've got to get some wins on the field to make everybody feel good about what they're seeing as far as progress goes. But I think he's already starting to change it a little bit.
Eric, you're a big, I know it. I always wanted to talk football. We kind of started doing this with basketball, but you're still a Lobo fan. I'm going to pose the same question to you. How long do you think it'll take culture changes to make an impact on the field here at UNM?
I think it's already happening. Obviously all the interviews that we've been conducting, you can hear it with the way that the players are talking, or the way they're talking about it. Everyone's motivated, and obviously it's going to be it's a results driven. I wouldn't call it an industry, but market, whatever you want to define it as, program, wins and losses. And I know this isn't necessarily football related, but it is the football team, and results wise, they've had the best grade point average as a team in, what was it, the spring that they just advertised, right? Like, I think
it was like a 2.8 average, which is pretty good.
Well, highest for the team ever. And to me, that's just kind of the message that Bronco is trying to get to this team is just pay attention to the little things. Do everything in your power to control what you can control. And the things you can control are getting to class, applying yourself to certain things. And that's going to translate. Guys paying attention in film study, getting after it in the weight room, attention to detail on the practice field, guys being where they're supposed to be being, and not just jogging from drill to drill, but sprinting from drill to drill, just doing little things like that, man. It sends a message. It sets the tone. And that to me can result in just on-field success. And I know it's not going to flip everything over immediately. They're not going to go from a 4-win team to an 8-win team year over year. I mean, I wouldn't say that's impossible, but just the little things that you're starting to see, the little things turn into habits, and those habits are what helps build success on the field. How guys are thinking, how guys are executing, knowing what to do in certain situations, becoming fast decision makers, kind of going through not just going through the motions in practice, but paying attention and and just being, I mean, kind of engulfed in everything that's been going on. So I think that's the type of culture that Bronco has kind of laid the foundation for, that these guys have bought into. Guys actually want to be there. Guys got to earn their jersey numbers. You can't just milk your way through it. You can't just get by showing up anymore. And I'm not saying that's what they did when Danny was here. We all loved Danny, but I don't know if his discipline or his course of action for enforcing discipline was on the same level as Broncos. Broncos had plenty of success at everywhere he goes. He's got a successful blueprint, and he's laid that blueprint here, and he's inherited 60 new guys. And for me, they're all guys that want to be here. And if you want to play and you want to be on the field, you want to earn a jersey number, then you got to do it the right way. So I think that
So
translates into kind of field success.
that was well said, Eric. It was. Going back to Hondo 1976. Yeah, we talked about the offense at the beginning. They run the ball. They're Tommy Mellett, their quarterback. And we'll have more as we get closer. And we're going to try to locate somebody who covers the team from Montana. We have a guy. I need to reach out to him. Malachi Nelson has yet to play a game. We don't know about Sam. He's the best. I mean, talent wise, he's up there. I agree with you. I'm just saying from what talent is. Yeah, I'd give it to Mikey Keene or Braden Fowler Nicolosi from Colorado State. His name escaped me there for a second. I mean, he's got Torrey Horton. That'll help him out. I think before we end the show, and again, we will be doing this every Saturday. This was kind of a test run, which I don't like to say, but this is what we plan to do for you every Saturday game day. What I'm trying to find here is, and we'll have guests. We'll figure that out. We just wanted to kick this thing off, and we're going to do it again next Saturday, and then obviously the 24th, which is
2 weeks.
away. Thank you, Arnold Schwarzenegger, disguise lady in Total Recall. What's got to make you feel good about playing Montana State is that they run offense that requires for the defense to be very disciplined. Believe discipline will be the strength of the team. You might be right. I would agree with that. Yeah, again, we're going to come to you every Saturday, 9 a.m. Will be prompt Jimmy H. We hadn't all gotten together like this, so we were talking beforehand to get some final kinks out. We do have a new sponsor. It's Affordable Service Heating and Cooling. Affordable Service Heating, Plumbing, Air Conditioning for your HVAC needs in the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho area. They've been in business for New Mexico for 35 years. During that time, they've served more than 40,000 customers for providing complete residential and light commercial HVAC services, including heating, cooling, electrical, as well as plumbing. They take pride in their staff, in our commitment to the Albuquerque community, and creating satisfied customers with every product. So we appreciate Affordable Service. And Dolce River Bakery and Coffee, right next to Turquoise Desert Tap Room on 528. Go make a bet, go get some coffee, then go over to Turquoise Desert Tap Room and have lunch and make a bet and watch your bet lose, as like mine. We've talked about this as well. Has UNM announced any changes to traffic control to improve coming and leaving the game? Well, I think what happened with New Mexico State last year was people were not used to filling that stadium anymore, and they were overloaded. Because trust me, I got there 2 hours beforehand, and parking sucked. It was terrible. Absolutely terrible. And UNM, I don't really care. I don't like to think media is privy, but I'm there to work, at least when I do with the Daily Lobo. So to sit in traffic I mean, who doesn't want to sit in traffic? I used to commute in out of New York City. It sucks, but I don't know what they're going to do. I think it's been horrendous to get in and out of that stadium. And we talked about that with Jeff Symbieta, the executive director of the New Mexico Bowl. So, yeah, so we'll be coming to you live. This is the Morning Howl again, brought to you by Dolce River Bakery and Coffee and Affordable Services. Does anybody have any final thoughts before we continue the show next week?
Just good to have Jacob back, man. Good to see you again, Jacob.
Hey, thanks, Ed. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, my last thought too is just, I know we'll talk about this deeper, is there is one negative to Montana State, and that's their special teams. It was horrendous last year. They went 10 for 19 on field goals and missed 6 extra points, the most out of any team in the Big Sky. So if they do start the game by stopping Montana State and forcing them into some special teams, there's going to be where if it doesn't go well, we're going to have to stop them on 4 downs because they're not going to continue to kick it. But they used 2 kickers, and it was not good last year. So where UNM has a strength in special teams, that might be, one of the positive things going into this game, is that we know that we hold the edge there.
I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to go to this comment for you, Jacob. There you go. Rick's joining us, watching from, I think, his daughter. He had to do something for his daughter in school, so God bless him. They lost in the playoffs on a blocked kick. Jacob, this is for you. Do you guys feel like this is a 1.5 win team or more? Because their season total for wins is over 1.5. Once again, much disrespect from Vegas. And would you be disappointed if they only win 1 or 2 games? I will go say this. I will start with this, Jacob. If I make the bet for the over, I will be very, very disappointed, but I'll throw it your way.
Yeah. I mean, if you bring up that schedule that we've shown, it's rough. There's going to be a potential, like you guys have been saying, there's been some mixing around of the coaching and, people having to do the same thing that Broncos doing right now. However, those teams were a little more successful than the Lobos in the past, so they might have a little more talent on their team. I think you're going to find out real quick. The most 2 winnable games on the schedule to me are going to be Montana State, New Mexico State, and possibly Utah State with what's going on over there. So I think you're going to have to take advantage of 2 of those 3 games to hit the over 1.5 for this year, because I think they might struggle with the rest of their schedule. But if they only won 1 or 2 games this year, I wouldn't say I would be disappointed. I would say that it's going to be a process, right? But we definitely want to see, here's what I thought about this season. I could see them literally going 0-12. But I also could see them going like 4-8, right? And if they go 4-8, I think that'd be a great start to the regime with Bronco, just because it's going to take a while. You got to show improvement before you can make a bowl game, right? And at that point, it will give us hope going into 2025, or the 2025-2026 season. So I don't know yet. You know what I mean? If I'm looking at the hunch of betting this, it's really hard to bet a team under 1.5 wins. I mean, you have to be god awful to do that. You know what I mean? So if I'm from a betting perspective, you can win 2 games on that schedule, in my opinion. So if it was me, I'd be taking the over in that sense. But yeah, that's my answer to that.
I especially think because it's Bronco Mendenhall. I don't know if again, I've said I think this team could be 7-5 and 0-12. I mean, realistically, he's given the New Mexico State game the best nickname ever, the New Mexico Championship. We should make shirts for that. I just think that there's way too much. There are too many winnable games on here. And at 1.5, I would take that. I think it's minus like 120 for 2 wins or over, so I would take that. It's just, I don't know, that's just such a little number. Paul Beneo, will you still be on assorted weeknights or just Saturday mornings now? No. This is our specific game day show for UNM football. We have called it the Morning Howl. You can see it on the top right there. It's brought to you by Dulce River Bakery and Coffee. No, we're still doing weeknight shows and Saturday shows, especially leading up to the season. Not sure what it's going to look like in the season, but we will be doing this every Saturday morning at 9. What I was trying to figure out was, because this might be a concern, and I'm going to bring up the schedule, the football schedule again. If you see there, it says on November 9th, they're away at San Diego State. And I was looking at the schedule last night, and I think because of TV rights, forgive me, I'm looking it up because I didn't dawn on me until last night. And you know what? I'll go to Go Lobos for this. So they play St. John's, they play UCLA in Vegas on November 8th. I think that football schedule has changed, and they play San Diego State at 8:30 that night. That's according to GoLobos.com. Here you go, Eric. Eric, is there any advertising and plans for the show? We will see it on billboards and commercials or something. Well, we need more advertisers.
Yeah, I think it's the other way around. I would gladly put us on a billboard if it didn't cost us a fortune.
Well, again, I'm a former employee on the bottom of the totem pole at the Albuquerque Journal, and what it costs to advertise, at least this was 2 years ago in the Albuquerque Journal, my mind exploded with how much money it is considered the nature of the newspaper industry, which is what I came up in. I wouldn't pay that kind of money. I don't even know, like, I subscribe to the Journal, and it's nothing against Sean Ryder, who I love, and then Jeff Grammer, obviously. But when I subscribed to the Journal last year, and I'm opening up the sports page, and it's a bunch of wire stories. Why am I paying $20 a month for that? That's just what I'm going to say. I'm not dissing on Sean Ryder's work or Jeff Grammer's work. I go to it because I don't do that job full time anymore. I'm in sales, so it. And how about my week, Jacob? Hey,
Hey, how about you just help us advertise it by putting the word out?
Yeah, I mean,
That's what we
again,
need.
I've
Or
said
word
this.
of
I'm
mouth.
pretty.
Share it on your social
Yeah,
media.
word of mouth.
We would appreciate it.
Saul Goodman was also a con man and a fictional character. There's my sarcastic ass back at you. I will say this, though. This thing has grown bigger than I have ever thought. So throwing that out there. But yeah, so anyway, I work for the Rail Runner. They do advertising on the train, and it would be a great place to sit and watch a podcast show. Then on the train ride, I can maybe talk to somebody. We would greatly appreciate that. We really would. When I took the train in and out of New Jersey and New York City, going in, I would listen to music, a podcast, I'd watch a show, I'd read. And then on the way back in, I'd grab two tall boys and drink them on the way back listening to music. So that's very cool. But yeah, so I found that out last night. This game is no longer November 9th. It is November 8th. And UNM men's basketball plays UCLA that night. And as I've always mentioned, I know they can't help that with TV rights, but sometimes this program is its own worst enemy. And I don't know how they're going to do that. But we're going to play an interview with Caleb Medford, UNM basketball wide receiver. Does anybody else have any final thoughts? I know we got Jacobs on the mountain.
Football wide receiver, not basketball wide receiver.
Did I say basketball wide receiver? Yeah, Freudian slip. UNM football wide receiver, Caleb Medford. For Ed Nunez, Jacob Neff. Hey, Jacob, it's good to have you back. Ed, always pleasure having you on, the voice of Western New Mexico. Eric, anybody have any other final thoughts or no? Or can we move on to the interview? We don't want to bore our guests on a Saturday morning.
Move on.
All right, awesome. I will play. I'm going to pay some bills here, and then we will come back with Caleb Medford interview. Hey, everybody, thanks for watching. Again, this is the Morning Howl, brought to you by Dulce River Bakery and Coffee every Saturday morning at 9 during the football season.
Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
I'll just start with a general question. How does it feel? You guys are about a week and a half into fall camp. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling amazing. I'm feeling great. Honestly, I'm really excited about this team. I'm excited about the love and support we're getting from, all the Lobo fans around. And I think that we'll really benefit this year and just keep going.
Devin Dampier throws you the ball. I'm sure you've heard that, and you're probably like in the back of your mind, like, damn it, this guy's asking me about Devin. But how good of a player is he? How good of a quarterback is he?
Devin's really one of a kind, a true talent, a great leader as well. I think that he brings the best to our offense. Like I've been saying, Devin's going to be great for us, and I think that us rallying around him and him having that affectionate energy that we need, I think he's going to really help us.
We talked to Andrew Henry, and he's a pleasure to talk to. He was talking about how talented, how special you are. You've got Luke Weiss on his speedster. He's from here.
Mm-hmm.
Family lineage is UNM. And you've got somebody who's entering the team, Sean Miller. How talented is this core of offense?
I'm telling you, with Devin as one of the brains at quarterback, and we have Sean Miller, Nick Trujillo, we have Luke Weiss on, both Weiss songs. Our whole core as a whole is great. And I think that, having us out there with him and then having nasty O-linemen and very mean and aggressive, I think we're going to be very, very special.
You mentioned the O-line. It was one of your guys' strengths last year, which I'm my size. When I watch football, I love defense.
Right.
And he's going to get tired of this, hearing me say this, but I love talking about defense because I watched a New York Giants team win 2 Super Bowls with defense. But Bronco Mendenhall is the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot of turnover from last year, but how are they coming together? Because there seems to be a lot of unknown, at least from people looking in.
Right. I think bringing in some of the players that we have now, we have Jawan Singletary as their leader, and Mackenzie Agnello. You have Richard Pierce actually as the leader. My bad. I think that our whole O-line is just very mean and aggressive. I'm very excited to see what they do. I think that being where we at right now, and we just keep progressing and moving forward. Richard Pierce is probably one of our loudest like people in the room. Like he lights it up. A lot of those guys are very, very special. And I think, having him as one of the leaders, and you got our quarterback Devin and those guys. I think we'll be very great.
What Bronco Mendenhall has, a defensive background, but what can Lobo fan and the rest of the country in the Mountain West Conference expect from this offense?
From this offense, I'm gonna be honest. I think this offense is just gonna light it up, like on all cylinders. I'm talking about from the run game to the passing. I mean, it's really gonna be very hard to stop us. We're not one-dimensional as I would think we were as last year, but right now I just feel like we have so many parts that we will be pretty great.
Is it something that, because you guys were very successful on offense last year, and you had yourself and then obviously Corey Krosky, Merritt, and Henry and Dylan Hopkins, you guys had some really good games and did light up the scoreboard.
Right.
So to some of the new guys, and Devin got in at Boise, but have you, I'm really bad at asking questions today, but have you guys kind of talked about what you were able to accomplish last year, even though last year was last year, and kind of carried that over this year?
I mean, honestly, I just think it's just a new offense. I mean, honestly, I think we're very creative. Like our Coach Beck does a great job of just letting us know what we're doing, and then we have certain scripts, and those certain scripts are very, very creative. I think that comes with our little pillars that we have, was the creative excitement. Our whole offensive room, for from the wide receivers all the way down to the linemen and the running backs, stable running backs we have. It's just so much parts that are moving, and it's just gonna be very hard to stop us. I mean, honestly, from the outside game to the inside game, I mean, we really gonna be pretty great up front, and we're gonna be great just throwing and running. I mean, honestly, it's gonna be hard to stop us. It really is. I'm excited.
Flip the script on you real quick, because you are going up against the ones on defense every day in practice. What can you say about the defense and the progress they've made from last year to this year?
I would say we're very great up front. Our front seven is really good. I think really the DBs that really surprised me a lot, really. I think we're going to be very great on the back end. We have leaders such as, Taven Combs not here anymore. I mean, well, he's still here, but he's hurt right now at the moment. But I think defensive-wise, I think we have those front seven guys like Gabe Lopez, Okiki. When everybody's really healthy, it's just a great team, a great football team. And I'm telling you, Pierre, Comini, our corners are very great too. We got some size out there as well. They're 6 foot and above now. We got Javante Royal. Man, it's just, I'm telling you, I think Lobo fans gonna love what we got coming. They're gonna love it.
You've been put on the All-State Warfel Trophy watch list, which I think honors the work in the community at the school.
Right.
How to get that national recognition here? What does it mean to you, and what does it mean for the football program and the university?
I think it's an esteemed honor. I think it's great for this, football team as well, and this community. I really love being out here. That's the first thing I would say when I first got here, was just the environment, the people. I'm from a small town in Henderson, Texas. East Texas is where I'm from, and we don't see mountains all the time. We don't at all, and the people here are just amazing. And allowing me to be here and be a part of the community is something that I'm very grateful for.
Talk about, and then Luke Wysong, the guy on the other end of the line. He's on the Paul Horning watch list. Can you talk about what that means to him when you saw that, and what's it like playing with him, and how you guys built it?
When I tell you, when I first got here, I mean, I didn't know anything about Luke Wysong for real. I didn't know anything, but he's become one of my best friends here. And he's really took me in, showed me the ropes around Albuquerque, and I think he's really, really, really a special talent. When I say a special talent, he works his butt off every day. Everybody in that facility knows who Luke Wysong is. He has made his name as an Albuquerque legend, honestly, in the making. Once he's getting an opportunity, he's going to capitalize every time. And every time I have watched him work and go through pain, suffering, he always prevails. Luke Wysong is amazing. Mm-hmm.
That's what really helps doing it 1-on-1, 2-on-2.
Thanks a lot.